The Outer Worlds 2 has been one of the most anticipated RPG sequels for spacefaring adventure fans since the game was first announced back in 2021. Being developed by Obsidian Entertainment, the game promises to continue the satirical, decision-driven narrative of its predecessor while building on the studio's established RPG expertise. Despite facing numerous different challenges, including the events of 2020, development on this game appears to be progressing well, with the Obsidian CEO confirming that the project is looking incredible. This video will explore the key elements of the Outer Worlds 2, including its development hurdles, team dynamics, gameplay expectations, a release window speculation, and what fans can look forward to about this game. But before we get into it, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all the latest gaming news. The Outer Worlds 2 was officially announced during the Xbox and Bethesda Game Showcase in 2021, where a cleverly self-aware trailer introduced the game with humorous narration. While the trailer for this game provided little in the way of concrete details about it, gameplay, or story included, it quickly became apparent that Obsidian Entertainment was doubling down on the irreverent tone and creative universe that defines the first game. Upon their first glance at this new trailer, fans were obviously thrilled, but soon after, news about the game went quiet, largely due to the studio's focus on other projects like Avowed and Grounded. According to Obsidian CEO, the Outer Worlds 2 was always in development, but the studio faced critical decisions during the early stages of the pandemic in 2020. At one point during this game's development, the possibility of relocating the entire Outer Worlds 2 team to focus solely on Avowed was seriously considered, especially since that game was their next one to be released. However, the team ultimately decided to maintain their separate projects and development cycles and continue to make the Outer Worlds 2, albeit at a slower pace. The pandemic threw a wrench into the gears of many different gaming studios worldwide, and the development teams at Obsidian Entertainment were of course no exception to that. As the CEO revealed to us in a recent interview with Limit Break Network, the studio went through a particularly difficult period in the game's development during the first year and a half of the pandemic. At the time, the company was grappling with multiple ongoing projects, including the Outer Worlds, its DLC content, Avowed, Grounded, and Josh Sawyer's narrative-driven historical game Pentiment. The CEO of Obsidian went on to describe this time as a crappy developer phase for the studio as it struggled to meet the demands of their projects under pressure of remote work and the uncertainty brought on by the pandemic. The development teams even debated whether it made sense to pause the Outer Worlds 2 and shift focus entirely to Avowed to streamline their studio's resources. Luckily, Microsoft, which had acquired Obsidian back in 2018, supported the studio in its decision to stay the course in their development processes, allowing them to develop all of their games at a sustainable pace. In a quote, he goes on to say, "We weren't the best version of ourselves for a while," acknowledging the struggle of balancing multiple high-profile projects at the studio. But despite these setbacks that they faced, the development of the Outer Worlds 2 ultimately continued, and the team eventually found their rhythm again. With Grounded and Pentiment successfully completed and released to the world to play, the studio could shift more of their resources and focus on its flagship RPG projects, Avowed and the Outer Worlds 2. One of the key reasons for optimism surrounding the Outer Worlds 2 is the continuity in the creative team. The game's lead programmer returns as the creative director for this new project. They also co-directed the original Outer Worlds game alongside Tim Kaine, an industry veteran and legend known for his work on Fallout and Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines. The game director on the previous game also remains in charge of this new project, ensuring that the same creative vision and tone that made the first game so beloved will carry over into the sequel. Matt Sine, a veteran who worked as a tester on Fallout New Vegas, now serves as the head of gameplay and content for this new project, reinforcing the strong ties between Obsidian's legacy with the Fallout series and the Outer Worlds franchise. The consistent leadership has helped keep the development team focused despite the chaos of the pandemic and the challenge of managing multiple simultaneous projects. The CEO of Obsidian emphasized how lucky the studio felt to have this experienced group of developers leading the charge, and went on to say, "We have a lot of people on that game that get it, that worked on the first game and worked with us for a very long time," he said, noting that this has given the team a deep understanding of what makes the Outer Worlds tick. One of the fascinating revelations from this interview was the concept and term that they used of a semi-porous membrane between Avowed and the Outer Worlds 2. Rather than isolating the two projects completely from each other, Obsidian has created a flexible framework that allows for the exchange of ideas and resources between the different development teams. While each project of course has its own distinct leadership and direction, this approach to development ensures that Obsidian can be agile in responding to production needs without overwhelming any single development team. He goes on to say that we have a pretty good wall, well, not a wall, it's more of a semi-porous membrane between these two different projects, he said. humorously referring to the balance between keeping the games separate while allowing some collaboration when needed between the two. This system in their development for the team has allowed for the developers to share learnings, tools, and technologies between their different projects, particularly in their use of Unreal Engine. As Obsidian continues to refine its processes for working with third-party engines and tools, they are building a robust framework that will not only benefit The Outer Worlds 2, but also their future projects. While of course very few details have been revealed about the specific gameplay mechanics of The Outer Worlds 2, fans can often speculate that the core elements that define the original game should return, with some much needed improvements and expansions to the game's systems. The first game's combination of humor, deep role-playing mechanics, and player-driven decisions set it apart from other RPGs on the market. However, it was also criticized for its relatively short campaign, clocking in at around 12 to 15 hours for the main story, with a total playtime of around 30 to 40 hours for completionists. Personally though, I have to say I recently bought the DLC for the Outer Worlds game, and both were really good, with the second DLC, Murder on Eridanos, being amazing in my opinion. Many fans of the first game have expressed some hopes that the sequel will expand the scope of the game, providing a larger universe to explore, more intricate side quests, and a deeper character customization system. The CEO of the company hinted that the development team has learned from the first game and is focusing on making The Outer Worlds 2 a more expansive experience without losing the satirical edge and narrative complexities that made the original game stand out. With the return of the series' signature irreverence and dark humor, The Outer Worlds 2 will likely continue poking fun at corporate greed and interstellar bureaucracy while also introducing new planets, alien species, and technological advancements. The tagline for The Outer Worlds 2 is "New solar system, new crew, same outer worlds," which promises a fresh setting and cast of characters while keeping the satirical, spacefaring spirit intact. And of course, Obsidian Entertainment has been very tight-lipped about the specific details of the new star systems, but the trailer for this game suggests that players will visit visually stunning alien landscapes filled with strange creatures and corporate outposts. In the first game for the Outer Worlds series, companions played a vital role in shaping the player's experience, each with their own unique backstories, personalities, and abilities for you to exploit. Fans are hopeful that the Outer Worlds 2 will not only introduce new companions, but also delve deeper into their relationships with the character, giving players more meaningful choices and consequences based on their interactions. Much of the tension during the Outer Worlds 2's game development has been the simultaneous work on their other game, Avowed, their fantasy RPG, and is also Obsidian's other highly anticipated project. Avowed is a first-person fantasy RPG set in the world of Pillars of Eternity, Obsidian's critically acclaimed CRPG series. With its deep lore and complex magic system, Avowed has been positioned as possibly a direct competitor to the Elder Scrolls series, but of course they've already said that this game likens more to the Outer Worlds and will have the smaller scope of that game and not a huge massive open world like the Elder Scrolls. But given the relatively smaller scope of both projects they're currently working on, some fans have expressed concerns about the resource allocation within the studio. However, the CEO's reassurance that Obsidian is managing both games through a balanced system of shared resources and tools should put those fears to rest for many fans. Their fantasy RPG Avowed is currently slated for an early 2025 release, and once it's completed, Obsidian will be able to shift more of their resources to the Outer Worlds 2, suggesting that the game's release could follow shortly after since they've had simultaneous development cycles. Although there is no confirmed release date yet for the Outer Worlds 2, most estimates suggest a release window of late 2025 or possibly early 2026, but that seems a bit optimistic to me honestly. If I had to make an educated guess on this game's release date with a strong emphasis here on the word guess, then I would say we'd probably get the Outer Worlds 2 at the end of 2026 or possibly at some point in 2027. But honestly, who really knows? I hope it's one of the earlier release dates. But the extended development cycle, while of course frustrating for many fans out there, could result in a more polished and content-rich experience compared to the original Outer Worlds game. And given Obsidian's track record and the lessons that they've learned from the previous projects they've developed, The Outer Worlds 2 has the potential to be one of the standout RPGs of the next few years when it finally releases. And their continued use of Unreal Engine, along with the studio's growing expertise in working with third-party tools, could help ensure a visually impressive and mechanically robust game. With their fantasy game Avowed expected to launch in early 2025 at the moment, The Outer Worlds 2 closely following, Obsidian is well positioned to continue delivering high-quality, narrative-driven RPG experiences for many years to come. As the studio continues to build on its existing tools and refines its approach to project management, the next generation of Obsidian games could very well set a new standard of RPG excellence. Despite a rocky development period during the beginning of the pandemic and concerns about managing multiple projects simultaneously at the studio, The Outer Worlds 2 is shaping up to be a promising follow-up to its beloved predecessor. With a dedicated development team led by other veteran creators, a refined project management approach, and Microsoft support, Obsidian is well equipped to deliver a sequel that expands on the humor, world building, and player choice that define the original Outer Worlds game. While of course fans out there may have to wait a bit longer for its eventual release, the anticipation only grows as The Outer Worlds 2 promises to offer a richer, more expansive universe that retains its satirical edge. All signs for this game currently point to a very bright future for the highly anticipated spacefaring RPG in The Outer Worlds 2, and I cannot wait to see what this game has in store for us. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all the latest gaming news. And if you're looking for something else to watch, click one of the videos you're seeing on screen right now. I will see you there.